Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Joanna Ati. I'm one of the contributors to the community contribution scores proposal that was submitted in the tooling pool. So the problem that we're trying to solve in a nutshell is that there doesn't exist a tool right now that allows platforms to easily import data and calculate contribution scores, or you might know them as reputation scores, based on multiple configurations. And this is important because communities will they do right now, but more and more communities are going to depend on being able to capture the participation and the engagement of their members, as those interactions will determine the level of influence that a member can have on certain decisions and processes within the community. So the inspiration for this proposal came from the need to improve deefunding's current process in calculating those contribution scores for the community members. So currently, as you know, the voting power of a user is influenced by their AGIX holding as well as their activity on the SWAY portal. And this activity could include creating a proposal, creating a comment, liking, reacting, all sorts of interactions. But right now, those interactions and those calculations are done manually on spreadsheets. And as you know, that's prone to human error. It's quite tedious, especially with the number of participations that are, the increase in number of participations. It's limiting, it lacks transparency and also explainability for the wider community. So we aim to solve this problem by first building a proof of concept. So this proof of concept will be utilized by the community immediately. And then we're also going to outline specifications for a future product that we would want to open up for various projects and platforms, as well as conducting score research and community engagement. So for the proof of concept, like I mentioned, it will immediately benefit deep funding. And what we're going to do is build a web app application with a simple front end, where the funding team can import the data exported from the SWAY community portal, and then the contribution scores will be configured and calculated on the back end. The goal is to automate those processes that are now manually done. To introduce configurability. So by doing that, then we can expand on the experimentation on those evaluation processes, as well as transparency. So the way these calculation scores are going to be calculated, as well as the results will be available for the deep funding team and the wider community to view. For the specification for the future product, we're going to be outlining the next phase of what this project will look like, namely the MVP, where we're going to work closely with the deep funding team to see how we can incorporate the data from the voting portal into these contribution scores as well. And then we're also going to be doing extensive user research with projects in the wider SNET ecosystem, but also other platforms, on how we can design a tool that can be adaptive for them to be able to configure scores based on their designs and needs. Out of that will come like iterations, requirements, and designs. And then we're going to be conducting score research and ways on how we can engage the community. So explore and determine frameworks for contribution scores based on best practices. We're going to set some principles and procedures for the SNET community, outline some list of variables and modules on how to use these variables when producing scores, as well as come up with processes for meaningful community engagement. So the program management that we use at Fortrek, or with this project, is going to be based on sociocracy, which is heavily dependent on group consent. And then this is our team. We are very engaged in the SNET community and have contributed in various ways, which you can see on the proposal as well. And then the proposal, the duration that we proposed is 4 months. As for the proof of concept, we know that the deep funding round will be happening shortly before that, but we'll have the web app application hopefully ready in time to be usable for that round as well. In terms of the specification of future product, we'll end with MVP design, user research, post-MVP requirements, and processes for how we can collect feedback from the community based on a proof of concept. And for the score research and community engagement as well, we'll finalize community contributions to the MVP and report to the SNET community about proof of concept processes. And questions? I hope that was under 5 minutes. Good.
That was perfectly on time. Damn. Awesome. Thank you so much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
And please, anyone with questions, feel free to directly raise the questions or your hand.
I can make a remark if nobody has. This is the one project where I don't have any questions because I was involved as an advisor, as you could see. I think this is one way or another, whether it's awarded or not, a tool that would be very helpful to the deep funding program. Reputation, as I call it, still reputation. So reputation and contribution score is the same thing in this context. I promise that if this project gets awarded, I will switch my language from reputation to contributions scores. But it's obviously a very important thing. And right now I'm doing all that in spreadsheets. That has limitations. If we have that tool, everybody can see what's done. It's transparent and not prone to human error, which is a very realistic risk indeed. So yeah, can't wait to get my hands on it. And thanks for the great presentation, Joanna.
Anytime. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I find it super interesting. Are you connecting this to tokens, or is it just generally a platform?
Sorry, what do you mean by connecting it to tokens?
Or I wonder about the connection to tokens, whether it's kind of related to kind of create tokens, or whether it has nothing to do with tokens. I feel like I didn't directly catch that. Maybe I also just were distracted, but
That's okay, that makes sense. So the goal is actually like, no matter how a platform calculates their contribution score, so your platform could take into account, let's say, the amount of tokens that their users hold or how they use the tokens or whatnot. And the goal is for them to be able to utilize or configure those calculations based on whatever variables make sense for their design. So for voting power, like I mentioned right now, it's based on the participation in the SWAY portal, so different metrics of that, but also your AGRX holding. And then the score would be calculated based on a configuration of all of these together. I hope that answered your question a little. Okay.
Maybe I can add to that in the context of deep funding, we will also be using the program to calculate the awards in tokens of the contributors. So I mentioned at the beginning of this meeting that there is 100,000 HIX to be distributed over the most productive contributors. But who are most productive and helpful, etc.? That's not an easy thing to calculate. We can make that infinitely complex. And this tool will help to do that in a fair and transparent way and make sure that everybody gets the right share and people are rewarded. And therefore, we have a virtuous circle by getting more helpful people working on the platform and the program.
Awesome. Okay, nice.